time is it now? 11:31. So, half an hour before it starts. Just about time for me to go in, get a pint of Diet Coke, get some crisps, get me ticket, and get me seat. Right, it's 3:30. I've just got out the so-called lecture, and I just need to get home. I don't know if I'm more disgusted by what I've heard, or if I'm more disgusted by how everybody just sat there, nodded their head, and lapped it up. I'm actually really angry, and I'm going home. For 5 years, I owned this YouTube channel here, where I debunked and ridiculed the claims of some of the internet's most ridiculous conspiracy theorists. This channel is now in somebody else's hands, and I thought that this for me was all in the distant past, until, that is, I came across this poster here. You see, I live in Blackburn, and it turned out that on the 9th of June, Britain's most ludicrous conspiracy theorist, Mark Steele, was going to be giving a speech with two of his mates in the nearby town of Burnley, just 8 miles from my house. So of course, I had to go and obviously film some of it for you guys. But before I went, I thought I should speak to Raynard Wilson, the owner of the Mind of Steel YouTube channel, a channel dedicated to calling out Mark Steele's nonsense. Now that channel is linked in the description, and I highly, highly recommend it. But what Raynard Wilson had to tell me about Mark Steele, I must admit, I found a little bit disturbing.
In 1992, he shot a teenager in the face with a handgun. This was because of what seemed to be a pub brawl with a person called Stephen Wilson. And that was resolved by Mark Steele drawing a loaded handgun from a concealed holster, aiming, pulling the trigger, shooting, and missing. The bullet did not find its intended target. The bullet lodged itself in the face of Nicola Lumsden.
Now, I can't overestimate how strongly I recommend going and subscribing to the Mind of Steel channel. It is highly informative and highly entertaining. But what he told me was concerning, and it was a far cry from the usual light-hearted type of conspiracy theories that I was used to dealing with. People like this lady here, a flat earther, who, in a conversation with me, confused the word fusion, in nuclear fusion, with the word fizzy, as in fizzy water.
Well, if it's fusion, isn't that just bubbles of air in water?
Or the time this conspiracy theorist was giving out advice on how to conserve petrol.
If you were travelling from Scotland down to London on a ball, it would be downhill all the way. You wouldn't need to put any petrol in your car. You just use your brakes.
But on Saturday the 9th of June, surrounded in a Burnley social club by 50 to 60 conspiracy theorists, I found out firsthand that these people aren't just amusing. They're also stupid as fuck. No, you know what? I'm going to leave that in. Let's play the intro. Yeah, sorry about that. I think that's probably a giveaway that I don't actually script my videos. Anyway, I arrived at the social club about 20 minutes before Mark Steele gave his speech, and I was involved in about 2 conversations in that time. One of them was somebody telling me that football was invented by the devil, and that was something to do with climate change. I'm not really sure what the hell they were banging on about, but everyone seemed to nod along and accept it. And the second conversation I had, I was invited to go and live in a new country that has not yet been invented, that's going to be situated somewhere in England where there will be literally no laws, no taxes, and no money. That was just in the first 20 minutes. And then this happened.
Before we start, what I want to see is a lot of these weapons and weapon deployments, right, they're not working. Right, I can tell you that for a fact. In 2020, they expect to kill 4 million in the UK alone.
And that was literally the beginning of the speech. No context, no introduction to what these weapons are, just an introduction that for some reason they were trying to kill 4 million people, a number which went up by over 1,000% only 5 minutes later.
I was at the Defence Contract Conference in 2017 where I was told they were going to kill 55 million of my countrymen, women and children. And I thought, well, fuck that.
Now, at this point, everyone in the room was listening so intently to Mark Steele that I had to question, was I the only person there that knew that 4 million and 55 million were indeed very different numbers. But either way, Mark Steele was alluding to the fact that he'd uncovered some kind of depopulation program. All he had to do now was tell us how it was going to take place.
Remember Greece? Burning trees from the inside out. Now, how do you get a tree to burn from the inside out?
Now, trees burning from the inside out is actually a well understood phenomenon. In fact, it takes about 10 seconds on Google to come up with some fantastic explanations, such as this one here by this Reddit user. Essentially, the wood deep inside a tree is dead and it can be exposed by insects that are burrowing, and that can rot away and create some kind of artificial hollow chimney full of flammable dust. But you've probably guessed that that's not the explanation that Mark Steele is going to go with. He's got an alternative explanation for why trees in a forest fire might burn from the inside out, and he's going to link it to his made-up depopulation program.
Ionospheric radiators, right? They are direct energy weapon systems, okay? They use the dielectric properties of the tree, right, to create that temperature increase so it bursts into flames.
Now, at this point, we're all waiting for Mark to explain why using these ionospheric radiators or heaters to burn trees from the inside out during an already established forest fire in Greece, why that would have an effect on the population in the UK. But Mark Steele decides, just fuck it, I'm not going to explain that, I'm just going to change subject.
What was in that vaccine? What was it? What was in it?
Yes, of course, the inevitable topic now brought up by Mark Steele, in which he is questioning the morals of a group of people or a species of people, I don't know, called the Thelonites.
Right, Alistair Crowley, right, Satanist, organised the Thelonites, right? Rishi Sunak, big ears here, right? He is a Thelonite.
And apparently the Thelonites had a plan of their own, and they gave it a cool name.
So this was what they called Project Fear, right?
But Mark Steele doesn't want to use the nickname given by the Thelonites. He doesn't want to use Project Fear. No, he has an altogether far more distasteful and disgusting name for this plan.
What I call the final solution.
Classy, Mark. Very, very classy. And not surprising, of course. So what was Project Fear? What was the aim of it?
And the whole purpose of it was to inject you with an elucidating technology, because unfortunately for radar and LiDAR, you as a biological structure are not easy for me to track. They're not easy for us to see, right? Not the best thing. It's not it's impossible, it's difficult. So if I want to elucidate someone, I'll just fill them full of this type of technology. And not only that, it then allows them to switch your heart off, attack you in the brain, all sorts of nefarious types of activities.
So just to recap what we've learnt so far, we've learnt that the government have spent millions and millions of pounds to develop weapons with the sole purpose of burning trees from the inside out during the middle of a forest fire, and that a race of people called the Thelonites have developed some kind of nanotechnology that will allow them to track us and switch our hearts and brains off at will. Now, the next hour of the lecture seems to consist purely of Mark Steele pointing at pictures of cameras and traffic lights and saying, these are not cameras and traffic lights, they are weapons.
That's not a camera. Who thinks that's a camera? You've got a laser gun, a phased array laser, absolutely lethal, by the way. That's the potential to kill. I mean, the wattage, I think the watt is about 174 watts of power and kill you with 4.2. Slow but sure death from optical radiation emissions.
Now, his explanation as to why traffic light cameras, ULEZ cameras and 5G towers are somehow direct energy weapons is one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard. He keeps referring to something called photomodulation, or sometimes pulse modulation, where he basically is alluding to LEDs and light bulbs turning on and off quickly. He seems to be genuinely frightened of the photons that come from them. He seems to think that photons are ionizing radiation, even in his own words, if they fall in the range of wavelengths that are non-ionizing.
You've seen the pictures of them LEDs pulsing, not being smoothed out. So consequently, like I said, it's a weapon. Pulse modulation, right, is extremely dangerous, okay? Multi-photons, if I get enough photon value in a beam, it's ionizing radiation, even though it operates a non-ionizing radiation spectrum.
Now, I haven't heard somebody get so confused when trying to give a scientific explanation since the time a flat earther tried to educate me on Newton's first law, which obviously to me and you is an object in motion will remain in constant motion unless acted upon by an external force. Of course, the flat earther had his own special version of that law.
Things in motion stay in motion if there's no vacuum or there's no friction to stop them. Basically something like that. Isn't that the third law, third dynamics?
But despite the urgency of the situation that Mark Steele would have you believe, these direct energy weapons are in fact quite harmless as long as you buy a pair of sunglasses. In fact, just a bog standard pair of mirror sunglasses will make you invulnerable.
These reflective mirror lenses, there's no special about them. Just buy them from a shop, mirror coated. What it does a cancellation wave, and it stops that optical radiation causing advanced macular degeneration, and it's the reason why they want you to stop. If you get nicked wearing glasses like this, tell them to go and get knotted.
So just to summarise one more time, Mark Steele has uncovered evidence, apparently, of a depopulation programme that is going to wipe out between 4 and 55 million people. Part of that programme is to invest millions and millions of pounds to create these giant ionospheric heaters, which operate by burning trees in Greece from the inside out, but only during established forest fires. He's uncovered a group or race of people called the Thalanites who are going to introduce nanotechnology inside people to turn their hearts and brains off. And he's also discovered that if an LED or a bulb flashes, then it suddenly, for no reason whatsoever, becomes a direct energy weapon, which will kill you unless you were basically just any old bog standard pair of sunglasses, and then you'd be absolutely fine. Now, to me or you, that might sound like a whole load of low-hanging bollocks, but here's how the crowd reacted to him. After that round of applause is where things got a little bit depressing for me. All I'd heard all day is that you must question everything and question everybody. But after Mark Steele got this round of applause for his 2.5-hour bullshit marathon, not one single person in that room questioned him or even asked him for any evidence on anything he'd been saying. Instead, they just lapped it up like it was a bowl of hot chocolate soup, and they went back for seconds. Several times in the question and answer session, they even referred to him as an expert.
Now 5G, I'm thinking your expert opinion, is it just going to affect the majority of people, and why doesn't it affect these top people as well?
These people were actually looking to Mark Steele, the biggest bullshit merchant I've ever seen, for life advice.
All questions for Mark, please.
Just a quick one. Are we safe to go to the dentist for a job?
No.
And in that moment there where I realised that these conspiracy theories aren't just online, but they dominate people's real lives and inform people's real life choices. At that point, I think I got so depressed, I would have found it difficult even to laugh at this.
You might be saying, that guy, why would they even invent gravity then? Why is there mass? What is this shit about mass?
Now, it is time to hold my hand up and be honest here, that as much as I was disappointed and shocked by the stupidity on show, I was also surprised by just how nice everybody there was. I've been into places before where I have been welcome, but I've never been into places before where the atmosphere was so welcoming, so supportive, and the people there were genuinely nice people, all rooting for each other. And one of the nicest people I spoke to, and I genuinely never would have thought I was going to say this, is this man here. This is Graham Steele, Mark Steele's brother. He's the man who gave me permission to film Mark's speech. And after Mark's speech, he happily spent about half an hour talking with me and was a really nice, chilled guy. In fact, when one particularly suspicious lady came over and asked me if I was some kind of Sky News journalist, he defended me and said he didn't even care if I was. He genuinely thought he was trying to help me when he pulled out his phone and clicked on a Bluetooth search app and held it next to my arm to give me my own personalised Bluetooth MAC number. After spending some time with him, I genuinely think that he believes he's doing good, that he's doing God's work. In fact, the term he used when he was talking about the trolls who criticise them is that, well, they don't even believe in God, do they? So what do they know? Quite often, I will accuse online conspiracy theorists of being grifters. But in this occasion, there were 3 speakers there. I know how much everybody paid to get in. I know how many people were there. I know how far the speakers travelled and the accommodation they had to book. And I really find it difficult to believe that anybody would have made more than 20 or 30 pound out of that day's session. The day was a bag of mixed feelings for me. I felt genuine respect and warmth towards the people who were there because they were just genuinely so nice and friendly. But I also felt real anger towards them for just being so thick and gullible. I also felt great sympathy because I could see how this was affecting their lives and really influencing their everyday choices and putting them under some kind of constant stress. So when I came home, I did what any mature person would do, and I took all the leaflets that I had and all the email addresses I got, and I started to troll the fuck out of some of these organisations that were spreading misinformation to such good people. And there will be more on that in the future. Bet your bottom dollar. But for now, I'm off.